All right, these are some help videos for how we interpret traits, genetic diseases, and how we can make predictions about offspring. So I should have put it on one page, but live and learn. So there's 2 pages. This page is about guinea pig hair. And we have 2 different alleles for hair. We have a capital H, which is the dominant gene, and it's a completely dominant, completely recessive trait, where the dominant gene makes them have short hair. And the recessive gene makes them have long hair. So these are the genotypes, and these are the phenotypes. So the genotypes are the 2 alleles that they have, and the phenotype is the trait that they have. So for a guinea pig that has 2 dominant genes for hair, they will have short hair. In this one, even though they have a long and a short, because it's a completely dominant recessive trait, they will also have short hair. And this one, they will have long hair. And so I gave a bunch of different practice crosses. And a genetic cross is when you take the 2 genotypes and you cross them and you want to predict what their offspring will be like. So I'm going to do number 2. So the cross is big H, little h, crosses with big H, little h. And so we'll just say that the first one is the mother and the second one is the father. So their genotype is big H, little h, but their phenotype, if we remember, is going to be short hair. So here we have 2 guinea pigs. They both have short hair, and we're going to breed them, and we'll see what the chances are that their offspring will have different traits. And so what we'll do is put the mother's genotype on the top of the Punnett square and the father's genotype on the bottom of the square. And then we can bring these down and these over. So if the offspring inherits the dominant gene from the mother and the dominant from the father, they'll have this genotype. If they inherit the recessive from the mother and the dominant from the father, they'll have this genotype. If they inherit the dominant from the mother and the recessive from the father, they'll have this genotype. And if they inherit the recessive from the mother and the recessive from the father, they'll have this genotype. So that's how we use a Punnett square. But then how do we interpret the Punnett square? So this is all about offspring probabilities. And so the different traits that the offspring could have are short hair or long hair. So a Punnett square has 4 squares. Each of these squares, since it's 1 of 4, each square represents a 25% probability. So there is a 25% probability that their offspring will inherit 2 dominant alleles. There's a 50% probability that they'll inherit a dominant and recessive, because this one and this one have that. So 2 of the 4 boxes, or 50%, have this genotype. Only 1 of the boxes has 2 recessive alleles, so there's only a 25% chance they'll have this genotype. But if we're talking about which traits they have, this guinea pig, and this guinea pig all have short hair. So there is a 75% chance that they'll have short hair, and there is a 25% chance that they will have long hair. And so that is how we can make predictions about guinea pig hair length. The next example that we have is blood type. So blood type has 3 different alleles. And it's an example of codominance, which I'll explain in a bit. So there's 3 different alleles. There's the dominant A allele, which makes A antigens. There is a dominant B allele, which makes B antigens. And there's a recessive allele, we're going to make it an I, which is recessive and makes no antigens. So both of these are dominant, meaning whether you have 1 or 2, you will have that letter will get expressed. Nothing will cover those. But this one is recessive, and it can be covered by the A or the B. So these are the genotypes for blood type. So you either can have two dominant or two A's, one A, one I, so on. And then these are the phenotypes, which is the actual blood type that the person has. So if they have this genotype, they'll have A blood type. If they have this genotype, the A covers the I and they have A blood type. This would be B, B, A, B. And if you have two recessive, there's no A or B being expressed, so they will have O blood type. And how this works is your blood cells, our blood cells, might have these little antigens. They're like little tags on them. And so we're going to say that the A antigen I'm going to do is green. So if you have A blood type, you have A antigens on your blood cells. They're little proteins that stick out of the cell that your white blood cells can or cannot recognize. And that's how your white blood cells know what things are dangerous to you, and that's how your white blood cells are your immune system. If it's B antigens, we'll do this yellow. So B blood type people have B antigens on their blood. And if you have a B blood type, you have A and B antigens on your blood cells. But if you have O blood type, you have no antigens on your blood cells. So why does this matter? If you have A blood type, your body recognizes either these antigens or no antigens. So if you were to get blood from B or AB, your body does not recognize those B antigens, and your body's white blood cells will attack them, and it could be very dangerous. But if you have O blood type, your body recognizes your body recognizes none of the antigens, so any blood type would be bad for an O blood type person. However, O can give blood to anybody. So let's see how this could work in genetic crosses. So I'm going to do this example first. And so back on my paper, I'll use this for blood type. We're going to do the AI crosses with a B blood type. Okay, so the mother's genotype we'll say is AI, the father's is BI. So mother's phenotype is A blood type. The father's is B blood type. So let's say that we want to know what are the chances that their child will get the different blood types. So again, the phenotype probabilities are A blood type, B blood type, AB, or O. So let's do this cross and see what happens. So if they get A and B in this box, those come together, it would be A, B. If they get this one and this one, it'll be B and an I. If they get this one and this one, it's A and I, and if they get both of these, they'll get I. So this box is AB blood type. Okay, so the genotype is AB, the phenotype is AB blood. This phenotype is B blood type, this is A blood type, and this is O. So what are the probabilities? There is a 1 in 4 chance they will get this genotype and they'll have A blood type. So it's a 25% chance. There's a 25% chance that they'll have B. There is a 25% chance that they'll have AB, and there is a 25% chance that they'll have O blood type. So this cross, so a person with A blood type and B blood type could have any of these possibilities. Let's look at a different one. So here we'll have a person. So the mother will have A blood type still, and the father will have B blood type. And if we do this, there is a 0% chance. There's a 0% chance that any of these have A blood type, because none of them have AA or AI. There's a 0% chance they'll have B. There is a 100% chance they'll have AB, and there's a 0% chance that they'll have O. So you can see here that in both of these examples, the mother has A blood type and the father has B blood type, but it depends on what that second allele is to determine what your offspring probabilities are. Next, we're going to look at achondroplasia, also known as dwarfism. And this is a dominant genetic disease. So here, if you have this gene, you will be a dwarf. And if you have a lowercase, you will be a normal-sized person. This is not a trick question, but it kind of is. So this, you would say they would be a dwarf. However, if a person inherits two dominant alleles, their body would have too many not issues, but they would have too many abnormalities, and their body would not be able to survive birth. So if a person were to have this genotype, they would not survive until birth. This one, they have one dominant, so they would be a dwarf. And this one, you would be a normal-sized person. Okay? Notice none of these are carriers. Okay? There are no carriers for dominant diseases. So either they have it or they don't have it. Those are your two choices. And so we can do Punnett squares for these. So this, let's do this one. We're going to do number 1, which is, okay, 2 people. So the mother, she has this genotype, so she is a dwarf. And this person's a dwarf. So we have 2 little people, and we want to know what are the probabilities that their child will have different characteristics. And so here they would get 2 dominant genes, dominant recessive, 2 recessive. So what are our offspring's phenotype probabilities? They could be a dwarf. They could be not dwarf. Or they could not survive birth, so not survive. Okay, and as I said here, this one, unfortunately, they would not be able to survive, and so that would be a 25% chance. This box and this box would cause the child to be a dwarf, so that's a 50%. So 2 out of the 4 boxes would have a dwarf child, and then one of the boxes would get the normal phenotype, and they would not be a dwarf. So 25% chance. So yes, 2 dwarfs could have a baby that is a normal height person. Our last example is sickle cell anemia. And so this is a blood disease. I'm going to add here, it's a blood recessive disease. And so here, a capital S is normal blood, and a lowercase s is sickle cell. Okay, and so normal blood, they're circular, they're round, they fit easily through arteries and veins, but sickle cells can get trapped or clogged. So they get clogged arteries, and that can cause oxygen deprivation. And it's very painful. There are treatments that can help. So yeah. So in this example, since it's 2 capital letters, they are normal. They don't have the disease. They can't pass it on to their children. The 2 lowercase, since it's a recessive, if you have 2 recessive genes, you have sickle cell anemia. But there is a third choice, a third phenotype, and that would be a carrier. And so here, this person has the dominant gene that covers the recessive, so they don't have sickle cell anemia. But if they pass this gene onto their child could get another one from the other parent, and they could have sickle cell anemia. So let's do some genetic crosses with sickle cell anemia. I'm going to try this one. Okay, so number 1 is capital S crosses with lowercase. So here we have a mother who is normal, not affected, and we have a father who has sickle cell anemia. And so we put the letters on the top and the side, and here all 4 would inherit a dominant and recessive. And so our phenotype probabilities are either not affected, sickle cell, or carrier. So none of these have capital S, which is normal. So there's a 0% chance that they'll have a child that is totally normal, not affected, not a carrier. None of them have 2 recessive genes, so none of them are affected by sickle cell anemia, but all 4 of them have the carrier genotype, so 100% chance that their child will be a carrier of the disease. So they won't have it, but they could pass it on to their children.